The Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission will come to order and roll call. See Hal,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Lauren.
Present.
And Lauren, would you be seated for Kevin, please? Thank you. All right. I would like to ask the commission's consideration to change the order a little bit tonight. Maybe put the public hearing in consideration of public hearing for Gold Star Highway together. And the next one, put those two together, just to save a little time for the first party. You're okay, we'll need to vote on it. So if somebody agrees, we make a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous, thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, I guess, Deb, do you wanna?
Sure.
Start?
Sure. So this is a continuation of the hearing that opened September 23rd for the Whittle Earth Processing Facility. The hearing was continued to this date to receive the town attorney's written opinion as to whether the hearing should be held. That opinion is in your packet. And as I noted in your packet, the appeal of special permit 377, which was the last time you renewed this special permit, was dismissed. Your packet also has a description of the stump pile that we talked about at the last meeting. The assistant zoning official finds that the pile is a permitted use for farming operations. And again, that's also in your packet. And just so you're aware, the hearing has to be closed by October 28th without any kind of extension.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Okay, at this, does the applicant have anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Just like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Which is on 2 minutes. Good evening, again, for the record, Attorney Jeffrey Londrigan on behalf of the applicant. And we are back for the reasons that staff had stated. I did want to just touch on the decision that upheld your decision on our last renewal. Just to basically say the court did, I think, an excellent job of addressing two arguments that you heard 3 weeks ago. And I just wanted to clarify, we heard 3 weeks ago about asphalt and concrete not being earth products to be imported to the site. And the Superior Court judge disagreed with that argument, basically said that asphalt and concrete are earth products and can be imported to the site. And the second important part of that decision was the argument about whether or not the stipulated judgments that were entered into with the ZBA 18 years ago and with the zoning commission about 11, 12 years ago, whether or not those are valid or enforceable. And again, the trial court looked at it and said, yes, they are. Regardless of what the court might have done with certain decisions, they're basically part of, and they were incorporated into the original special use permit, which was permit number 321. We were obviously happy to provide information on that composting pile or mulch pile that is a farming use, and happy to hear that the zoning enforcement officer agrees with that. I was going to address, again, I don't like being called a liar. Last time I was called a liar for saying that Judge Coldshoe vacated his decision on a certain thing. He did. I'm not going to pass it out. You're all being very good being paperless with your computers, and I'm here killing trees left and right with copies. But I would like to just to present a copy of it where Judge Coldshoe does say on page 6 and 7, and I might have highlighted it, that his decision was vacated. The stipulated judgment was entered. So if I could just enter that into the record. And finally, if you are so inclined to consider our application favorably, I know the last couple of times we've been before you, the first time we came in and got permit 321, we had to come in for a renewal 2 years later, and we did. And then in 2019, the commission felt that extending that a little bit to 3 years was appropriate and was very much appreciated. And that was done in 2019. In 2022, it was 3 years as well. And on behalf of my client, I wanted to ask for any consideration you might consider above 3 years would be greatly appreciated and very much accepted with open arms. I'm sure my applicant client would suggest 15 or 20 years for renewal. I think that might be a little aggressive, but there is a process. There is an expense to the Whittles for coming in for renewals. And any years that we can keep a renewal in place before having to come back in and prove no change in circumstance and that everything is still copacetic, just assists with the financial juggling that the farm does. As indicated 3 weeks ago, you know, you got to sell a lot of dollar ears of corn and dollar cucumbers, and this gravel operation subsidizes being able to keep 380 acres in farming in the middle of the Mystic area of Groton. And so if you would consider maybe going beyond 3 years to whatever you think would be appropriate, would be greatly appreciated. If you determine that 3 years is all that we're granted or what we should get, thank you, we will accept it, obviously. But I did just want to lobby as best I could for perhaps a little more time before we have to come in and see you again. Thank you very much.
Does staff have anything else you want to?
No, I don't.
Okay. So at this time,
Any
Like-
more public comment?
yeah, I'd like to open it up for any more public comments. If you could come up here, if you want to say something, state your name and address, please.
David Wakus, 388 Yetta Road, Mystic. I live adjacent to the Whittle property. So I've lived there for 47 years. And I've seen this turn into a farm. It used to be a farm to one of the largest industrial mining quarrying operations in southeastern Connecticut. You know, Mr. Whittle tells us, you know, it's the family farm, but I'd like this, you know, this is posted on the thing. You know, US Mine Safety Association, it's a farm. Have any of you people ever seen the scope of this operation here? You know, have you seen what this place looks like back there? You know, I think my wife invited some of you up here before to come over for coffee, and you didn't take her up on it. I'd just like to submit some other pictures though. You know, the rubble clearly visible from the road, cracks in my foundation from the excessive blast. No. How did this turn into a farm? The GIS data has it as a farm. How did it turn into a quarry? Even Zanarini said the other day, it's a quarry. Is it a farm or is it a quarry? You know? How is this, you know, the permit section 5A? How is this in general harmony with the conditions of the neighborhood? How can this be in an RU 40? You know, it's 5 acres of corn and 78 acres of a quarrying operation. You know, people in Ledyard had, you know, they tried to have a quarrying operation up in Ledyard. People opposed that. Planning and Zoning Commission at least did some work on that. You know, quality of my life shouldn't suffer for his financial gain. You know, Mr. Whittle's crying poverty there, but I see 2 Mercedes in the driveway, the Corvette in the front yard. You know, looks like the quarrying business is pretty good. You know, I just,
I'm sorry, I was just,
you know,
Had to
respect
put
this, you know. But I strongly oppose this, you know, and I also like to oppose the additional holidays, you know. You gave him a couple more days the other time, you know, the permit also says no more expansion. That's expanding his business there, you know. Veterans Day is a national holiday. Good Friday, the markets are closed. Juneteenth, the markets are closed. You know, it's a town holiday. I saw everybody stand up, the town manager, the counselors, and you all get the day off, you know, town holiday. Blasting issues, you know, nobody seems to care to look, but what about the damage to my house? How is any of this being enforced? Tom Zandarini told me to be his eyes and ears. Won't even return a call to me. I just don't see how this fits into the scope of the character, Have any of you seen this operation? Apparently not. Maybe somebody like to come over and see the dust. Saturday operations. I've got some great video I can share with you of them working away on Saturdays up there. Well, guess I should have a bigger box. Yeah, they're working on Saturday. I have the video of it, timestamp, screening material on Saturday. How is this being enforced? That's my permit, this does not fit in the character of the neighborhood. A farm's a farm, a quarry's a quarry. What do they got? Can't have it both ways, can you? That's all I got to say here. Silence says it all.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to say anything?
I live on 314. I came for something else, but I'm supporting a farm.
If you could just say your name and address.
Susan Gordon, 314 Noank Ledger Road. And I would support the farm. We've gotten gravel from that gravel pit for 30 years. So it didn't just, I don't know how long it was there before, but it didn't just turn up. And I love the farm. I love the corn and the people and the whole 9 yards.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to say anything at this time? Okay, then, anything else from the commissioners? Before we move to close?
No.
Do we have to close it before we consider the
Yeah.
public hearing?
Yes.
As far as any other questions or anything else that you wanted, because you don't want to go.
Informational, so was there
I
any?
don't have any questions, but do we have to discuss in the public part of it? Any of these issues that were being asked? Specifically the holidays and the time frame for the renewal.
I think it's better if you ask everything, because you may
I don't have any
get into
questions
something
regarding
new.
Right, so then
Yeah.
you'll want to discuss it
But
once the
that-
hearing is
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Those kinds of-
yes.
Then I don't have.
It's okay.
I have one question for staff, just because it's the first time I've heard it, was that, is there a prohibition about working on Saturdays? Except for a religious one, which I don't think is it.
Right, I need to reference special permit 321, which is the permit that guides all of the work out here. Bear with me.
Sure. Thank you.
I found it, yeah, it starts on page 4. All right, let's see. Crushing of earth material, including but not limited to rock, concrete, bituminous, shall be limited to daytime hours, up to a maximum of 50 total business days per year, and only between May 1 to June 30th and September 1 through November 1. Absolutely no processing of any kind. This is also within the crushing section. Absolutely no processing of any kind shall occur during the nighttime hours or on Saturday or Sunday or on any national holiday. Now, with regards to the other activity on the site, except for activities described above and in the settlement agreement, which activity shall be governed by those paragraphs, the hours of operation for all activities associated with the uses permitted by special permit 321 shall be 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekdays. There shall be no operations of any sort on weekends, state holidays, federal holidays, except that on Saturdays that are not holidays, the permittees may be open from 8 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. for the sole purpose of making sales and delivery of already processed earth products and materials. No mining, crushing, or processing of any kind may occur on weekends or holidays. Nothing in this subsection is intended to apply to purely farming or agricultural activities on the property.
But if they're able to sell things. or
That is
move
good.
Things out. on
That is
site
correct.
Move in, move out.
And then subsequent
that have
specials,
already been
right, and
processed.
subsequent renewals refined what all this commission meant by federal and state holidays.
Right.
I have no.
You good?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Everybody else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Need a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say
Aye.
aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, it's unanimous. Now, for consideration and deliberation, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to bring up at this point?
I mean, I'm in favor of the holiday openings.
Mhm.
Veterans Day and Good Friday. And I would be in favor of extending the time that Mr. Whittle has to come back. I mean, there's special permits and we don't have any. Anyone
I'm
ever
fine
come
with
back, right?
That's
Right.
right. That's
Yeah, this was when this originally happened, because I was here.
right. You were in
Um,
zoning.
I mean, obviously, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't gonna be a nightmare. And
Doesn't seem like it. I mean,
I mean,
To
we would
me,
have a
it
room
doesn't
full
seem
if it was,
Yeah.
if it was bad.
Yep.
And I also would be in favor of extending it. I mean, doubling it, easy. The timeframes. Yeah, because it is, I'm sure with lawyers and everything.
Sure.
It's expensive.
I
I'm
mean,
sure these guys don't want to deal with it.
if we were to double it or go to a different time, anyone still has an opportunity to make an issue and come back again, right? I mean, that's something that someone can do. Is to make a complaint.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
definitely enforcement action. That's correct.
I mean, it just seems to me that there hasn't been. I mean, the complaints that we've had in the last 3 years are. There were only 2 or 3, and then they were on holidays or on
Mm.
emergency kinds of situations, and then. This, what we saw tonight, that presentation of the Saturday work, we don't even, I mean, I can't. Know what that was.
Mhm.
I don't have any problem with, I wouldn't have any problem with having. No further reviews. But if we want to go to 6 or,
I would have a problem with no, because the nature of the operations and what they might want to do or might want to adjust it. I think I would be more comfortable peeking in a little more than not at all, or every
that's-
10 years,
yeah,
something.
no,
like
that's
that.
just,
So,
you know,
yeah, I get that, but I definitely would extend it because, as we said, it started at 2 and I'll go to 3 and it seems to be okay. And have some issues, but I listen to the issues and think, okay, if it was a really active, noisy, smelly farm, that might be worse. So I don't know how to compare that badly. So I'd be okay with extending it a bit.
Yep. Lauren, any comments?
I think I could be comfortable going to 4 or 5 years, but it does sound like there's concerns around intensification, but not necessarily modification of what's happening. So yeah, I agree with how you peek in, but otherwise,
No. Anything else? Anybody?
just a kind of a parliamentary question. There were a couple of requests in front of us. How do you want us to do that? Are we going to do one kind of like motion to encapsulate it all? Or are we going to do individual pieces?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So like there's the request for extending the permit renewal timeframe, and then there's the request for opening up the holiday piece to it. How do you want to
I think.
address all in one motion?
Right, so the
Yeah.
draft motion that I provided
Yeah.
did address the holidays, but you can certainly change 3 years to whatever number
Right.
you guys land on.
Well, I think we need to have more of a consensus maybe on the extension time too. So I guess, yeah, since I was on this.
Good with 6.
I'm not good with 6.
Good with 5.
I'm good with 5.
Good with 5.
I'm actually, well, I guess I was on the zoning commission with Steve too, so I'm very familiar with this application.
I think that we had something. I think we had something in the planning.
You-
commission.
Planning and zoning actually did the
Oh, one
last time.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, I am familiar with the same.
But, yeah, and I had the opportunity to, I was interested in the site because I used to work for a company that made the big rock crushers and everything. I was very familiar with those.
Oh, look at you.
I know, things you don't know. But, and I was interested in the farming, the combination there too. So I did, I did see it. I think for me, I think at this point, having, they've been in many times, multiple times. And I would really, I think we should try for 6 myself. I'd really support that. So, I think otherwise we're just kind of playing around. I think it'd be good to do 6, given it is somewhat of a burden too for the type of operation you would hope would stay in town. So those are my 2 cents. I only have 1 vote. So, why don't we just take a vote on the term, or if somebody wants to make a motion, or does anybody have any?
Does anyone need a
Yeah.
copy of the draft?
Yeah.
Okay, got it all? Okay, excellent.
But, let's see, what does the draft say? Does it have the years?
It does, it says 3.
Oh, okay.
So someone could make a motion to whatever. And we'll see how it goes.
Wow. Am I the only person that wants 6?
But
No, I would. say
no, I
six
said,
if you-
I said I was good for doubling it.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
okay. So then let's make a motion for 6.
You-
So,
Oh.
understanding that
Yeah.
we have 2 people who don't agree.
Well, no, honestly, 5 sounds good, 6 sounds good.
Okay.
The difference between those 2 numbers just is not great enough for me to care.
Right.
Oh,
It's
Okay.
probably way too low for what it is, but that's where we are.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, do you want to read the motion? Do you want with 6 years? And I'm just, my iPad, I gotta
Oh, yeah, so
get out of it.
for 6 years.
Or I could do it, sorry, it just came up.
Yeah, well, forgot it, or you can.
Okay, if you seconded it. So special permit 25-0003, missed it. Oh, I'm sorry, look at that. See,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
you want to read it here?
Okay, so motion is to approve special permit SPEC 25-0002 to renew special permit number 321 for 3 years.
For 6,
What did I do? I mean, go ahead, I can't believe it, for 6 years, subject to the following conditions and findings, my apologies. 1, special permit SPEC 25-0002 is subject to the conditions of special permit number 321, number 368, and number 377 with the following modification. A, the list of state and federal holidays when operations are not allowed, as found in special permit number 377, is modified to eliminate Good Friday and Veterans Day. The commission finds that this application, as conditions, complies with sections 9.4 and 5.1-2.e of the zoning regulations and will not cause any potentially significant environmental impacts on adjacent water bodies, including Long Island Sound. I hear a second.
Yeah, whatever.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to just discuss, because for the Good Friday and Veterans Day, maybe what's already covered takes care of it, and I would have to digest that, because I think what we're trying to allow is that sales and movement of material is good for those days, not necessarily rock crushing on those days. So we would need to have that clarified in this.
Well, if people want, we could amend the motion to, and then take a
Yeah.
vote, so.
Just want to read what 377 said, which is the one that
Right,
So were you saying how that you just want to have sales those
Right.
2 extra holidays.
Deb's just reading what the
Yeah,
It's,
What that
it might
particular
already be covered.
permit.
yeah, it might, I just don't.
I think that's where the burden is.
Yeah. Yep, that's no good point.
Yeah. And I think that's a nice compromise.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, it refers to 321. Hold on.
That's all right.
There, so I've got that. I know 321 is in here.
That's why hyperlinks were invented.
Yep, exactly. But nope, this was all paper when we started doing it, so. All right. So, okay. No, okay, so, right, this is operations, just general operations during the weeks and, during the week is 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. No operation of any sorts on the weekends, state and federal holidays, except on Saturdays that are not holidays. Okay, so yes, Hal, you're right. It is for the sole purpose of making sales and deliveries of already processed earth products and materials, not for crushing and
Okay, so if we eliminate those. But if we. Well, if we eliminate those 2 days. Then that would allow anything,
As long as it doesn't fall on a Saturday.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's how I'm understanding. So Good Friday will never be on a Saturday,
good point.
Shouldn't be. no.
right? So,
Right, so all you're doing is basically modifying this section that was in the original permit, 321,
Right.
which specifies that it's just for delivery of already
Oh,
processed.
Oh,
It's
that's
all-
what.
Yes, you gotta keep
That
on going
section
back.
is
That's correct.
just for delivery of products.
That's right. That's
That's-
already been.
That's
specified.
all what we're eliminating
You
from,
okay?
okay, so
All right.
then we're good. Okay. So that's all you can do.
Okay, so is everybody ready to vote? Any other questions? Okay.
yeah, so no rock crushing on Good
It's already
Friday.
processed material.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's sale,
Right.
delivery.
Sales and delivery only.
Yep.
Okay.
You so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
I did.
Yeah. he's a good- It's like, I take your pick. Yeah. Yeah, Mike, Steve, or something. Whatever.
Sure, thanks.
All right.
All right, so. Al,
Hearing,
yes, Al, you'll be on deck here.
okay,
Okay, so now, Al's gonna read the announcements in the paper for the next public hearing. Special permit 25-0003. Okay,
notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held October 14th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in Community Room 2, Town Hall Annex 134 Groton Lone Point Road, and virtually via the Zoom platform to hear the following. Special permit 25-0003, 314 Noank Ledger Road, pin 260916729716, RS20 zone. Proposal is to establish a bed and breakfast in a residential dwelling. Review is per sections 5.1-7.b, bed and breakfast, and 9.4 of the zoning regulations. Clyde Gordon, Susan Gordon, owner, Clyde Gordon, applicant. A Zoom meeting link will be posted to the town's website meeting calendar. Applications are on file and available for public inspection during normal business hours at the Planning Department, 134 Groton Lone Point Road, Groton, Connecticut, dated this 3rd day of October 2025 at Groton, Connecticut.
thank you very much. Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
He is being promoted to panelist, and just give it a minute so he can share his
Sure,
screen.
you do.
I have it here, but it's not up there. Oh, you just need it.
Sure. Did you?
Oh, hold on. Yep. One more time.
And chairs. It's this tall. Oh, no, yeah. Shit. Yep, that was full screen. It was good.
There. I'm Clyde Gordon from 314 Noack Ledford Road, and we've proposed to operate the Mystic Getaway Bed and Breakfast in our home. And we will use 2 existing guest bedrooms in our home in the existing building. We don't plan to make any changes to the site or the building. There's no separate entrance to these guest rooms, which is the reason that it qualifies as a bed and breakfast, not a short-term rental. Guests will be accommodated only when we are in residence. We are not in residence all the time, and we would not want anybody in our home when we weren't there. So that will be, for us, a precondition that we'll never have guests if we're not there. We'll provide a continental breakfast of pastry, fruit, cheese, coffee, and tea if they're wanting to have it. Our experience as using bed and breakfast is that most often times that we've been there, we didn't want their breakfast, we wanted to go out for breakfast. Anyway, but that will be part of the package. There are 7 parking spaces available, not including the 2 in the separate garage. And they have been there for a long time. We would never have more than 10 occupants in the building. There's not room for any more than 10, and there would not be any more than 10. We do not expect to have long-term guests. The building is code compliant. It's been inspected, no temporary events, partying, guests, or excessive noise. We don't like that stuff. Our neighbors don't like that stuff, and we don't do it. And we would maintain registration records, which would be available for inspection. This is a portion of the GIS map. You can see that we are a rear lot, and we abut the Pequot Woods. And just to the south of us is open space. I believe that's called the Wolfbrook Open Space. We've been there since 1992, and we've been residents of Groton since 1967. You can see as this is our driveway, which is about 600 feet long. When you enter the driveway, you still don't see the house yet. We are way back from the road. When you get to the house, that's what you see. And this is the interior, living and dining area. TV room, family room, entryway, rear view of the home, guest room, and the other guest room. All right, come on, next, there we go. Special permit criteria, we believe we have met that. The location is on a 2.7 acre rear lot in a wooded setting, and we do not propose to do any changes to the site. There are none required. The building's an existing residence. No new buildings are required or proposed. The neighborhood is a As I said, we are at a rear lot, a long driveway. We have lots of space between us and our neighbors. The intensity of use would be no more than a family with children, which for many years is exactly what we were. 7 existing parking spaces, as I said, I believe that if you look at the package that was provided, there should be a diagram showing where they are. The existing street is adequate for the amount of traffic that we would propose to have. There's very minimal impact to the neighborhood and with no minimal impact on public safety. Utilities, the existing utility systems are adequate for the use. And Ledgelight has reviewed our application with regards to the septic system and signed off on that. And there's no change to environmental impact or impact our local waters at Long Island Sound or any of those things. And that is our proposal. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Okay, first we'll have a staff speak, but thank you.
Oh, I should turn that off.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
All right, certificates of mailing are in order, and to date, no communications have been received about this application. A bed and breakfast can be conducted in a single unit residential dwelling. As you might have noted in the staff summary, there is a permitted accessory dwelling unit. It's still considered a single unit. And this ADU, it's important to note, this ADU is not part of this bed and breakfast in any way, shape, or form. Parking calculations, anything like that. This ADU is really separate from that. Meals will be provided as stated by the applicant. Whether or not they choose them, I guess is up to them. Deb and I went out to inspect. Parking is adequate. Those spaces, as shown on the diagram, are in fact big enough to satisfy the parking outlined in that diagram. As mentioned, we had Ledgelight review this with regards to the septic. I think they filled out a B100A form, and Ledgelight reviewed and signed off on that. Given the nature of, there's again, no site work, no exterior changes, no signage proposed at the time of this application. Any signage would have to obviously comply with zoning. There was a variance for the horse stable. That's not a part of the bed and breakfast experience. So liability is a little bit lower. But other than that, not a ton to this. The 2 guest rooms have a bathroom, right? So it's not sharing any bathrooms or anything like that. But yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open it up to any comments from the public. If you could come up and state your name and address. Okay, I guess seeing none, is there anybody from the outer lands? I guess not. What? Okay, great. That's good. Does anyone have any other questions they want to ask at this point, the applicant or whatever?
None.
I do not.
Okay. Okay, then, if everybody's okay, we'll close the public hearing then. You ready for that?
Yep.
Good?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, unanimous. Okay, does anyone else have any other things they want to say, any other deliberation? At this point?
I don't think so.
We're in consideration.
Yep.
No, think it's a great idea.
Okay. Anything, Lauren?
Nothing particular about this application.
Okay, great. I don't either, fine.
Hmm.
With me, so, okay, terrific. So, we have a motion.
Okay. You can just skip as conditioned. I just left it in there in case there were conditions added, but other than that, straightforward.
Steve, you want to read this one just for?
Sure. Motion to approve special permit number 25-0003, Mystic Gateway Bed and Breakfast. 314 No Ink Ledger Road to establish bed and breakfast in the RS 20 zone. Findings. The commission finds this application as conditioned, complies with zoning regulations, section 5.1-7 and 8, 7.8. Oh,
B.
B,
5.1 and 7.8.
seven
Bed and
point B,
breakfast. Excuse me?
5.1-7B.
B.
B, sorry. The commission also finds that this application complies with the special permit criteria of section 9.4-6 of the zoning regulations in that it does not alter the essential characteristics of the surrounding area, does not cause traffic congestion or safety conflicts, and does not conflict with the purpose of these regulations.
Thank you. Okay, second?
Second.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? All right, unanimous. Very good. Okay, best of
Thank you.
luck.
Yeah.
Very much.
Good luck.
No, I thought you were here to tell me we shouldn't do it.
That's so funny. All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you both for being such huge help and what we needed to do. Thank you.
Yep, that's great. Thank you and best luck. So, okay, at this time, let's see, minutes. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I did not. I do not. I didn't see.
I don't have anything.
Nope, me either. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain?
I think I was not in attendance.
Okay,
You can still vote.
yeah. You
I'm
can
gonna
still vote.
abstain.
Okay, one abstention, just to break our record.
Yes, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's good. Now we have another set of minutes, if I can find. So I'll do a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Special meeting minutes.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't have.
Does anybody have anything? I don't think I do. Nope, I didn't have anything. Nothing? Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, unanimous. Now. Open space subdivision regulations, preliminary discussion. Yes.
Public communications.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have the main page. My apologies for having to stand up. These iPads don't scroll. I usually print out my first two pages here. But just be a second. All right.
No, it's yours.
Okay, any public communications for?
Were there two sets?
Any special
Just here to
permit?
watch.
Any special permits? Subdivisions, site plan, old business, new business? No, now we're back on. Sorry about that.
Think we're gonna have a presentation as well, if we can promote DJ. At least put the title screen up. There you go. See, just make sure that you can share your screen. Do you have anybody else? No, I'll just be DJ. Well, thank you tonight. Good evening. For the record tonight, my name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a partner and a land use attorney at Tobin Carberry in New London. It's great to be here once again. Tonight, I'm appearing on behalf of EG Home LLC, which is a well-respected residential developer and home builder, which has recently completed several successful major projects in southeastern Connecticut, specifically in the adjacent town of Stonington. My client tonight has requested this informal workshop discussion regarding a new and creative residential project that they're exploring here in Groton, involving approximately 80 acres of vacant forest and farm fields near the intersection of Noank Ledger Road and Sandy Hollow Road, essentially between Wolfbrook to the west and Pequot Woods open space areas to the east. Joining me tonight, I have Dwight or DJ Harris. He's the VP of Pre-Construction and Architectural Design for EG Home. I also have John McBride. John is the Land Acquisition Manager, and Amy Green, who is the new VP of Sales for the company. She's also here tonight. They're all from EG Home. I also have Tom Ryan with me tonight. Tom is a principal at Ryan Associates Landscape Architecture and Planning, who's really heading up our design team for exploring this opportunity. Tonight is intended to be an informal, non-binding pre-application discussion. And that's allowed by the Connecticut general statutes. An applicant can come before the commission to have a discussion before a formal application is made. And the purpose of tonight is really to share a potential vision for this property of an attractive, unified development that provides a diversity of single-family home styles at different price points with significant common amenities and, perhaps most importantly, substantial open space set-asides. While your existing open space subdivision regulations, which are codified in section 6.3 of the zoning regulations, are an excellent starting point, what we really also want to talk about tonight is to discuss some possible amendments to those regulations that we believe would make a better and higher quality project, and one that better reflects the town's character and allows for increased flexibility and promotes creativity in design. Specifically, simply adding the ability to utilize a common interest community framework to govern the development rather than the traditional subdivision parcelization or subdivision lots, we think would be of tremendous value. Coupled with added flexibility in the configuration and the type of single-family dwelling units allowed, we think our desired development could move forward. It could protect critical open space, provide connectivity between some of these existing open space areas in the neighborhood, and most importantly, could better meet the housing needs of Groton. So our goal tonight is to share our vision with you, to obtain some feedback from you on the proposal, to garner any suggestions or comments or thoughts that you might have regarding this effort, and hopefully help us refine our approach so that as we put together a possible text amendment in the weeks ahead, hopefully working collaboratively with your staff, we can try to address any concerns that you may have or things that we may have missed so that we can make the best application possible. So tonight I'm going to turn it over to DJ to give you an introduction about the company and talk a little bit about our approach, and then Tom Ryan's also going to get up and he's going to talk a little bit about sort of the design concepts that we're thinking. DJ?
Really did such a good job. I'm going to try not to repeat everything you just said. It's going to be a little of a lag here. So I guess I just want to set the stage of who we are a little bit more in depth and how we came to be here in front of you. So EG Home was founded in 2013 by Matt Gilchrist and David Earp, two former U.S. Navy officers who met in dive school. After they got out of the military, they started EG Home together. We have over 40 people in the company, and we're on track to close 80 homes this year. And I think what's important to note that every one of those homes is certified zero energy ready, which means that we are building to a standard above and beyond code. And meeting those efficiency goals is really important to us. Almost all of our projects have solar included, EV chargers included, and provide healthier living for all of their occupants. We have 8 communities in Connecticut, including nearby in Mystic, Stonington, East Lyme, and Pawcatuck. And we're actively expanding in the southeast corner with one main purpose, and that's to make high quality, energy efficient homes more attainable to more families. We really try to take the production home building mindset and merge with it being able to deliver a quality of product that you would really only normally be able to get with a custom home builder. And we are committed to thoughtful land planning and design, and that really leads us to why we're here. So this is the parcel in question. It's Sandy Hollow Road and Knowing Ledyard Road. The discussion objective really is to compare designs. We went to 3 different engineering and design firms and said, please design us the best community that you can to the current zoning regulations using the open space. And it wasn't really working out the way we wanted it to. And so I just want to keep in mind that Plan of Conservation and Development targeted this parcel specifically for an open space development with medium to high density. And the purpose of an open space subdivision is intended to promote imaginative, well-designed subdivisions to preserve that open space. And that the POCD recommended to revise the open space subdivision regulations to provide more flexibility, more development types and lot configurations to protect that land. So this is site plan 1 that one of our engineering firms came up with. It's 78 homes. It's
Just orient the commission exactly where that is to show them where Sandy Hollow Road is.
Oh, yeah.
We're sort of turned.
Sure, we turned. This is
Kind of pop back a little bit.
Sandy Hollow Road and Knowing Ledyard, that beautiful bed and breakfast that I heard was just path to walk. This is that. Yep. So 78 homes, it's septic systems. This is, your very traditional neighborhood as far as subdivisions goes. We have very similar communities in East Lyme and Stonington that are have either finished or are open for sale now. And this is certainly viable, but it would be 78 homes at $1 million plus. They would pace at maybe 12 per year, so it'd be a pretty long project. And, it wouldn't really have much of a sense of character. Second site plan that we could come up with was, our engineering team came up with 151 homes. This is utilizing a sewer extension from further down the road. It's a little over 2,500 feet to extend a sewer system. That'll let you get a little more density. This is, again, fee simple, individual lots, right? To the sizes that the current regulations want you to design to when you're doing an open space development. And I think if you compare the open space, the shading here, right, it's all contiguous, which is nice. This is Pequot Woods and the trail system, so we can kind of integrate to that. You go back to the previous one, you're really chopped up, you don't have any interconnection. And again, these are the individual lots that the current regulations sort of want you to point you to design to. And the problem with the regulations sort of as they stand is that, well, they put you into a box, right? You have to design to these rectangular lots. Everybody has to have their own little yard, and what you get is straight lines and rectangles, and that's really challenging to the feel of a community. So I think this top photo is really what the intent of the open space zoning regulations is. Very walkable neighborhood, very safe. I have 2 young kids. I would have no issues with them riding their bikes on those sidewalks. What you usually end up with these types of communities is the bottom picture, which is all cars, all driveways. Yes, there's some sidewalks, but gosh, that's not a very fun place to walk. So how we kind of ended up here is that we looked for other communities and that we really liked. And we tracked down the experts that designed those communities. Ryan Associates was one of them. And we went to them and said, hey, this is our intent, right? This is what we think the regulations intent is. And let's just ignore some of the more restrictive portions of the zoning regulations as they stand and design for us a neighborhood that hits this design intent, right? We want to address Groton's housing needs and stay within the allowable density. Obviously, we want to provide diverse home types and diverse price points. More importantly, we want to be able to come in at more attainable price points in a range, not just have every house be the same at the same price. We want to have a lot of diversity. We want to enhance the community character with context-sensitive design. I'll go into the architecture a little bit later, but what we did is when we were doing our research is we went to the historic neighborhoods of Groton and Mystic and looked to that as inspiration for our architecture and in the community design. And we want this neighborhood to feel like it could have been an extension of the historic parts of Mystic. And we want to create a walkable, cohesive neighborhood and allow for the extension of the Pequot Woods Trail system, and if possible, a future connection to Wolfbrook, which is a little bit west of the parcel. And then we want to include shared parks and preserved open spaces with a plan for long-term maintenance. And in essence, trade a little bit of private yard grass space for bigger open spaces and more community parks. And the other things that I think you get with a common interest community that isn't as obvious is really focused on that maintenance. It's a mechanism to maintain the whole community all together to the same level of standard. You can do things like restrict corporations from buying up a whole bunch of units. You can restrict short-term stays so that they go to the bed and breakfast instead. You can have a lot more creativity in the design. So then we said, okay, that's our intent, right? Well, who's the buyers? What's our profile like? And the project is really intended to serve local professionals, first-time buyers, and right-sizing empty nesters who want to stay within the community. So we had our design. We wanted to have single level living options in every price point in every product category. We wanted to have proximity to local amenities, and we want to have a very walkable neighborhood. And we want to have a housing mix that really aligns with the town's plan of conservation and development and some of the housing market studies that the town has put out. And just briefly, I'm not going to read all this, but young professionals, early career individuals are one buyer segment. Another is mid-career professionals and families, and then empty nesters and retirees. They each have different preferences. So if we have 3 product categories in the community, and we want to have plans for each one of these groups across each one of those categories. So whether they're buying the bigger, more expensive homes or the smaller starter homes, there's a plan for each one of those groups within each of those price points. So I'll ask Tom to come up again. We said, hey, design us the best neighborhood you can and kind of take out the most challenging parts of the restrictions. Thank you, Tom.
Excellent.
So that button right there will move you forward.
Okay. So of the things that DJ was talking about, the walkable neighborhoods, building a community, having some character, diverse housing types. The couple of plans you saw before is probably a good example of how not to do it. Big, long streets, all the same housing types, all clustered together, no sense of open space as a center. It's New England, our towns all developed around common greens, or oftentimes did, and that was the focus of community. One of the at the time it was for grazing, but now it's a visual center that we understand as an archetype is a place of community, a place people can get out onto. It belongs to everyone. And in this type of ownership, it will belong to everyone. So we're looking to create neighborhoods around a series of greens with diverse housing types with access to each of those. So you have housing types that are, smaller units for empty nesters or people that are just starting out. You have larger housing types, you have single. Well, let me go through the housing types. So before I get ahead, I like to talk, I'm a landscape architect. I like to talk about the open space, but I guess we need to talk about the units first. So on the plan, do I have a pointer here? I do not. So on the plan, we have 4 different types of units, 4 different types of lots. We have 4 units here and 5 units there. Yeah. Okay, so
Use your mouse pointer.
Oh, okay, great.
Not sure.
I'm a paper guy. I like to touch stuff. I'm sorry. Great, I got a mouse. So we've got lots on the perimeter here And it shows I'm a paper guy, doesn't it? And down here, that kind of extend the scale and the tempo of the existing lots kind of into that gap, so that there isn't a gap between our development and the existing homes. We're carrying those existing homes up the street to kind of close the gap in before we get to our development. The purple units on the outside, around the bottom and the right and the top, are all single-family homes with garage, front-loaded garages out front. And on the ones on the left are the same lots, only they carry a 50-foot buffer to the backyards of the adjacent units over on Sandy Hollow Road. So you see they're a little deeper. That's to carry this 50-foot buffer in between existing lots and the new lots there. So these are all pretty traditional, garages out front. But I'll get into how they're different when we start talking about roads. So then we also have the yellow lots, which are single-family homes, but on a zero lot line. So they're a narrower lot. And those lots all have garages in the back off an alley system. So you'll see there's two different color rows. Sorry about that. Two different color rows, the tan color, which are the main streets. And then we have the dark gray here, which are our alleys. So the alleys allow all the units that are inside here not to have garage doors down the front. They've got garage doors in the back off the alley. So in the front, they can have front porches. They can have, walks. They can be a little closer together, kind of help build that feeling of community. And then we also have, in addition to the narrow lot, single family, we have our attached cottages, which are a little smaller still. Also with a back alley access to their garage. So we have four different housing types, 4 different price points, all mixed together into neighborhoods. And the neighborhoods are clustered around open spaces. So we have set up a common out here, out on, I always mess up the name. Leonard, yes, you tell I'm from Massachusetts. So there's a common out here with a cluster around of each of our housing types. There's an existing barn that's on the site here.
Right.
We're thinking we might expand that into something we don't quite know what it is yet. So we'll get into it later. But it's a community related building structure to complement the community open space that we have here. So this front area, fronts a well-traveled road, but really sets up the feeling for everything that goes behind it. Then we have a series of greens or commons. We have the north green, the south green, and east green, each that has a cluster of housing types around it. So everyone's within 5-10 minute walk of a green.
Yeah, sorry, one question. What are the blue?
What's blue? Detention basins.
That's what I thought.
So
Okay.
that's the low spot of the site. So
Yep.
if water wants to run downhill, we want to put the detention basins where they belong.
And aren't there kind of wetlands too? And
Yes, there's wetlands. This
Southwest part.
wetland line down, that blue line
Yep,
is the wetland
okay.
line. So we do have, in addition to the greens and the sidewalks and things, we have an extended path that goes up to Pequot Woods. In from here all the way around, and also connections then on the up-hand side, which is over on the east side. Yeah, I get confused about that. We'll feel left. So those are basic housing types. We have this building here, or set of buildings, wherever it ends up being out of the street. But we also have a cluster up here of a community building. And it's going to have a pool and maybe community gardens. We haven't quite worked out all the program, but meeting rooms, the things that you would want but not necessarily want to have in your house. You want to use, occasionally, like have extra space to have a big meeting, or, if you hosted Thanksgiving, you didn't have room, maybe you rent a room in the community building. Maybe similar things might happen down here. Maybe there's an Amazon drop-off box or coffee shop or something in that area. So anyway, this is, no, where did I do the clicker? Yeah. So that's the general parts of the plan. Okay, so we kind of look, so we have 3 different kinds of streets. We have our typical neighborhood street. It is a 26-foot road, which leaves you enough room to get by. If there's a parked car, 2 cars can get by. So it leaves you enough room so if you have family get together, you can park along the street and people still get by. You park one side or the other. And then we have a 7-foot parkway for trees and a 5-foot walk. And we have that on all the backloaded, the alley loaded homes, all have that typical section. Where we have the front loaded ones, where we have the garages in the front, we omit this. And we put instead of having the extra distance back, we put them a little closer to the road, which means that you're not as aware of the garages because you have a porch out front. And if you think about going down the street, you pull things closer, you never see the house full on, and the closer it is to you, the less aware of the garage door you are. So we're trying to keep that street feeling scaled down and small like this picture, and the front porch is close to the side. If you have a front porch and it's, say, between you and I, you can make out faces and you can engage. And a big part of community is engagement, knowing your neighbors and interacting. So the porches and the sidewalks are necessary, part of all of that. So then we have our alleys, and the alleys are narrower, about 16 feet across, a little planting strip, and then there's fenced-in backyards. So this is where the cars are, where the garages are, where your trash is picked up, where you might park an extra car, along the side here. But these are the service alleys. But there are also places where, people come and go. So maybe the mail pickups are back here. So it has a whole different character than the front, and it's more utilitarian, smaller scale, narrow. But the fences are necessary piece of that. So that you had this private yard behind, and everybody has their private space, but then they have access to all this other open space. So now we also have a boulevard, which is in the plan. It kind of extends from one end of the project to the other. And what anchors it on the far side is a community building. So we have something that's kind of a landmark, different kind of street, about halfway into the project. So wherever you are in the project, you're near one of these landscape elements with a different character. So you might live on the boulevard, or you might live around the South Park, and the South Park might have a playground in it. Or the North Park might have a pavilion or a bandstand. So we're trying to set up neighborhood character and affinities within the different housing types based on landscape. Of course, right? That's what I do. So then the community building, what could be there? Well, what wants to be there is the stuff that you don't have in your backyard. And the place that you go to meet people and be with people. So if you don't want to talk to people, you've got a fenced in backyard, you do whatever you want there. But if you do want to be with people, there's a community building here with a pool, so you'd have a decent sized pool that none of these lots could accommodate, but you can have one here, be part of community. Community gardens, these are gonna be fairly shady with all the street trees we're putting in, but lots of sun over there. So we're still working on programs for these things, but that's the idea, is that we supplement what each lot has in the open space or in the buildings that are held in common. Look at that, right? Well, there it goes. Too many?
Sure.
All right. That's those.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the last slide talked about the community building with the pool and stuff that's back into the project. But this one is kind of the front door. And this is what everybody sees coming and going. Probably have a different character. And maybe we build on that existing barn, and maybe there's a coffee shop. Maybe they sell, sandwiches. Not something to compete with a farm stand down the road or with other retail in the area, but stuff that would maybe bring in the community, but really is designed to supplement what they might need in the community itself. And whether there are meeting rooms or music rooms, if you have a teenager that wants to play the drums, and you might rent out a music room for them to practice it, or maybe they have a library of things where you can get a lawnmower for your postage stamp lawn, or a sewing machine. Maybe there's a workshop in here, so you can do woodworking. So we're kind of working on things that people might need, but not have in their homes, and help build community as part of that. I think the one thing I couldn't screw up was pushing the button for you. Oh, perfect. Yes, thank you. All right, old school. Yeah. All right, good. So, so the village greens and commons, what do they look like? What do they feel like? You know, so. Yeah, New England, you know, was all carved out of the woods once upon a time. So the village greens were usually open spaces. You know, they were pasture land, but now they're, you know, visually, they're open green spaces, usually with some trees around the outside edge. And it's a place that you can go to play frisbee, to walk a dog, to walk a toddler, to walk a grandchild. You can go and fly kites, you could go and, you know, play pickup soccer. So there are things that you can't do in your yard, but things that really help make that community. And visually, they're a break in these massive long blocks. You know, all the blocks we're showing tend to be short with lots of corner lots, which add character. You know, you add architecturally, you wrap well, I don't want to steal just but anyway, lots of corner lots and you know, not as many of the lots in between. Let's see this. Emma, thank you. But then we're surrounded, you know, to the top and to the right by the Pequot Woods. I think that's spelled right, is it? No, it's not. So we're adding 7 new connections to the Pequot Woods. So we have, you know, connections all along the perimeter. We're connecting back here, we're connecting here. So we're adding in another choice of open space, another place to walk. That's quite different than the more civilized greens or the sidewalks that run along the street. And so if you want to go exercise a dog, you're 5 minutes from Pequot Woods. And we're extending the path system that's over here now, up and all the way to our common green. We're adding an additional connection over here. So we're integrating the Pequot Woods, and it's going to provide the residents here with quite a different experience than the walking right around the units and the more civilized greens. But it also adds more connections for the community at large. Get in and take advantage of the Pequot Woods. Worked out. Okay. I think that's you. Yeah.
So the last thing I'll add on site planning is that the common interest component allowed us to shrink the individual lots, take the square footage from those individual lots and put them into the common greens and the park space around it, right? So we can end up with a lot higher percentage of the parcel as community and open space than we would if we had to give all that square footage to individual lots. So on the housing types, we had 60 attached cottages, we have 105 alley loaded, and we have 55 of the larger perimeter, you know, quote unquote lots, right?
And how many acres is that?
About 80.
80.
So a big component of everything we've done in our designs is try to emphasize the front porch experience. Everything you read about building a sense of community in sort of this digital world is try to force people to interact. And one of the ways you do that is you put your front porch close to your sidewalk. So you're hanging out on your front porch and your neighbor's walking their dog or the kids are riding their bike and you can engage with them. If you're on a big parcel and you're 100 feet back from the road, you sit in your front porch, you're not going to talk to anybody. So our alley loaded attached cottages, they are attached single family homes. They have the massing and the color to suggest that they are detached. That was really important to us, so they don't feel like townhomes. And they have first floor primary bedrooms available, and they're more likely to have sort of backyard, courtyard patios with an emphasis on sort of the lock and leave lifestyles. So, you know, if you're an empty nester, you don't want to have as much maintenance, you don't want to have as much yard. So this is concept architecture of what that might look like. The garages are all accessed in the rear. The sort of massing the front porch is very dominant. The garages are pushed back from the front. And then by the time you landscape that lower garage section, it really just starts to look like individual homes, even though they are technically connected at the garage. But what you're ending up with is, you know, 3-bedroom up, for a starter family or a small master down unit for an empty nester at, you know, our more affordable price point. And then we have our detached alley loaded, again, pushing the house over to sort of a zero quote unquote lot line, even, you know, in a common interest community, there aren't really lots, but conceptually, that's the best way to look at it. Gives you use of the entire width of your lot for side yard and rear yard for private use. And really, this is, you know, a detached single family home. They're a little larger. And, you know, but again, very front porch dominant. In this case, the garage is in the rear. So as you're going down the street, what you see is, you know, front porches. And this, you know, quote unquote sort of lot that we've designed is the lot width that the current regulations want you to use. So we're still trying to design within sort of all the spacing that the current regulations want us to use. And really front porch dominant, 3-4 bedrooms. This is more like a little bit of a move up, family oriented home, but the larger size also lets us design a little bit more luxurious of a first floor master plan. And then lastly, our larger single family detached on the perimeters. We have, you know, about 90 feet of width to work with here. So we can have homes that are 60, 70 feet wide, which, you know, current regulations say you can be 70 feet wide. We went and looked at that and said, but if you do that, you know, there's still a lot of emphasis on the garage, and you go wider on the home, it gives you the creativity and flexibility to de-emphasize that garage as much as possible, push it further back from the front facade. So as you look at sort of architecture, we can have big wraparound front porches if we want, and the garage on the floor plans is always pushed back as far as possible. We want to try to have so that if you're parking a car in front of your home, it's not the first thing you see. You're still behind, even the parked car in front of the garage is even behind the front of the house. And here's sort of another example of concept architecture. This is a nod to the shingle style that you will see at Mystic. Again, kind of showing how far back this garage is, but relative to the front of the home, so that we can try to pull the cars away from the experience, even on the perimeter lots where we're sort of forced to have a garage on the front. We want to push it back as much as possible. And so what that might look like, this is from one of Tom's previous communities, but when you do have the garage, again, ours will be pushed further back, but the porch should feel like the biggest elements of each home. And it's always paired with parts or homes on the other side that don't have a porch. So you'll always have, you know, one side of the street with no driveway cuts and no garages. So even if you do have a garage, you can pair that with, you know, the alley loaded on the other side.
I'm sorry, how many large houses do you have in the development?
Those, we had
What number?
55.
55.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry if I missed it. What's the rough square footage of what you're calling a large house?
2,400 to 3,200 in that range.
And
So it's pretty, the smallest is around the attached cottage here
Mhm.
is 2,000-ish. Yeah,
Okay.
That's little.
Wow,
that's not.
that's not small.
Wow.
It's not including the garage. So when we design something like this, we can make it smaller. But what you're losing is really some bedroom space. Maybe it goes down to a 2-bedroom, but if your footprint stays the same, because the experience people are going to identify with most is their kitchen, dining, and the living room, and you want that to live very large. Shrinking the upstairs doesn't really save you a lot of money because all of your expense is still in your bathrooms and your kitchens and things like that. So we have some concepts where we're squeezing the square footage down to 1,600 or something like that, but the dollar difference is really not dramatic for what you give up in the experience in living in that first floor, because second floor square footage is really inexpensive to build.
You said you had you said you had a community in Mystic?
Yes.
Where?
Perkins Reserve is a townhouse community that we did in Mystic. It's walking distance from the aquarium. Bigger last week.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, they did the apartments and the healthcare section, we just did the residential.
And all of the units proposed are 2 stories?
No, we will have, particularly not in the attached cottage, because there's just not a big enough footprint. But in this product and in the larger one, there will be single story living. Possibly, but again, once you like, if you build a ranch, right? I can build in the attic space to give maybe options for guest suite spaces up there, which we find really popular. Not a lot of empty nesters, even though they're empty nesters, we do a lot of 55+ communities. They don't want little 2-bedroom units. They want to have space for the grandkids to come visit upstairs. So more often than not, they always want to have a second story space. You're just building in the attic, right? So you're, again, very low cost to add maybe 600-700 more square feet upstairs because you're just building within the roof. Sometimes you can use attic trusses and you're not really adding a lot of cost. But that size of a footprint allows us to offer a small ranch plan in the 2,400 or 2,200 square feet, and then give them the option to maybe add that guest suite space upstairs if they want it.
I think I'm just getting caught up, like when I think of small ranch, I'm thinking what my husband grew up with in Midway Oval, 900 square feet, right?
Yeah.
So 2,000 square feet is, in my mind, not
Well,
small.
relative to what
medium.
relative to what
And-
people are building in East Lyme and Stonington, you're saying, well, 4,000 square feet ranch, right? Like,
So you
Yeah.
said, dollar for dollar going down, what price points are you talking about here?
we hope
Like, and are we
that
talking
we
about
could-
building or selling?
we hope we can sell starting in the 500s and ranging up to the 900s. Whereas if we were forced to do all big homes, and when I say big, I'm talking 33,000+ square feet, every one of them is like in our East Lyme community, we're averaging 1.2 to 1.4.
And what
Right.
if you went down? Or is there just no ROI going down?
It's not about the ROI. I think the idea is to have a range that's reasonable within the community and be able to target multiple buyers. And 500s with the cost of the construction is really as aggressive as we think we can get.
Yeah, is it possible to even build something under 500?
We
in this
we
kind of
build
community?
1,600 square foot townhouses that are.
No, but I
in
mean,
the
would
fives.
this allow for the square footage even to fit, to change the price much? We're having a real hard time finding or seeing any houses that are close to what people can really afford. And this includes the more white collar type, or the salaried workforce.
I mean, part of the reason we focused on these price points is because we looked at the housing market study that the town of Groton commissioned.
Right.
And it showed really high demand in the 600+ price point, and we're trying to be under that. And we are trying to build as many units as we can to increase the supply, but
Right.
do it in a way that creates a really good neighborhood.
I think when you were talking about like diversity of units, there's 3 or 4 different types, but I'm not seeing diversity of size within those types. And maybe that's just something that isn't coming across on the plans, but I think of something
Yeah.
like the Knowing Village, where there is a real diversity of the actual sizes of the houses themselves. And it's walkable, and it's what I think of, and it's got the mixed use pieces with the businesses there. I know like the intent is not to come off cookie cutter is kind of what I'm hearing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
you know,
but I
we
think
could come in, we
this
could.
is-
say,
this is
"Oh,
really
build
creative,
Stacked
though."
apartments or something like that and be super as aggressive as we can in price point, but that's also not in the character of what the neighborhood would be in the surrounding area, right? So we're trying to find that balance point between the homes that are in the surrounding area and their sense of scale, and then translate that into the design of the community, right? We have attached units here, and the attached cottages are more expensive for us to build than traditional townhomes. But big, long, traditional townhomes are not really within the scale of the overall neighborhood, not in this neighborhood nor the surrounding area, right? So it's trying to find that balance of designing our architecture and our community with what's around it. And sometimes with that, you have to give up for that is building as affordably as possible, right? Because we could do apartment style buildings or long row townhouses and hit those price points. but I don't think that's best for the character of the surrounding area.
So you just wouldn't do that because you think that isn't the place to do it.
Right, I mean, we have 140 units in Cheshire where we do that, we did that in Perkins Reserve and Mystic. Right, so there are communities and there are parcels where that fits, and we certainly do that and love those communities, but we also want to design to the context of what's surrounding.
Well, if you do a townhouse, just ballpark, what's the price of a townhouse? And that'd be like a 2-bedroom type townhouse.
It would be right around starting at 500.
Still 500, yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay, thanks. Well, I think your open space, I think is very interesting because I've never been a fan of open space subdivisions, quite honestly. Because I find the open space is not maintained at all. In fact, the paths get to the point, I have some pictures and I won't mention which one it is, but it's in Groton, really between 2 big housing developments. You cannot walk on the paths anymore.
Yeah.
The multiflora was unbelievable, and then the mugwort's taken over
Yeah.
another path. I mean, it's just incredible. So here, though, it looks like they're smaller. People will be using them, but I'd like to hear more which maintenance plans.
That's a great lead in for Bill, but I think
Okay.
the common interest element of this is what provides the mechanism for the community as a whole to be
Right.
responsible
Right.
for the maintenance of those open spaces. A
Yeah.
lot of, if you have individual lots without the HOA oversight, there's no incentive for anybody to maintain those open spaces, right? And so that's really what the HOA leads into is,
There would be HOA.
Yeah, that was my question. It piqued my interest when they said that, no, something about fee simple, but so people build the houses but not own the lot that it's on.
Yeah, let me talk about that. That's sort of where we're gonna show. You can take that now.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Don't worry about that, it doesn't work anyway. right?
HOA.
Definitely doesn't.
That's fancy for the work.
So absolutely, I want to address those issues, but really the reason we came here tonight is a couple weeks ago, we met with your staff to talk about not just this project. I know we spent a lot of time on this project, but what really we're here for tonight is the possibility of taking those open space regulations that you have, which I think are somewhat clumsy. They're well-intentioned, but they don't really actually facilitate the kind of development that we actually want to promote. They certainly encourage people to set aside open space for some flexibility in lot size, but they don't go much farther than that. And they particularly hem you into traditional sort of track lot development. So, our thought is to take that regulation as a good starting point, but rather than focus on open space subdivision, focus on open space centered development, whether it be through traditional subdivision or through more creative common interest community. And in a common interest community, every homeowner owns their house, but the underlying land, the infrastructure that serves the development and all the common spaces, whether it's the common amenity building, the pool, or the open space itself that's being held by the association, is held jointly through a homeowners association. And there is a declaration and there is professional management of all of it. So it's better than a quote unquote homeowners association where you have single lots and people have to become members. And then there's issues of enforcement. This person's not doing what they're supposed to, so we're going to have to go to court and sue them over a failure to follow our rules. In the development of a common interest community, the ownership of the underlying land and all the amenities is shared by everyone to begin with. And it's part of their annual fee system that they pay to actually support and maintain those. So we can make sure that the walking trails in the open space are taken care of, that invasive species are taken care of, but also that the central lawns are taken care of, that the pool is cleaned, and that all the landscaping is done properly and it's maintained with integrity and commonality. So you don't have sort of one house on the block that sort of ruins it for everybody else. So there's a really great framework that's already existing that, quite frankly, there are dozens and dozens of common interest communities all over Groton already and all over southeastern Connecticut. What your open space subdivision regulations do, though, is it doesn't even talk about common interest communities. It sort of puts you in one bucket, carve up the land into individual lots, sell it off and take 20% of the open space and protect it somehow. This would create a much more integrated approach to the idea.
So just one question. So
Yeah.
does the association then really maintain the common areas and the people have to do their own yards?
Yeah, so,
And plantings
and that's
and-
all customizable. So there would be a designation of areas that the association takes care of and areas that would be within the homeowner's purview.
Mhm.
For example, you heard a little bit about fenced in rear areas
Mhm.
where you might have a patio or your grill, or you might have a little area. Those are typically maintained by the unit owner.
Mhm.
Where outside the fence, those areas would be attained by the association. That's all customizable
Mhm.
in these and based on the common interest community documents. But what it does is it creates a framework, I think, that creates a much more cohesive development. And I think what it could do is really empower your existing open space subdivision regulations to be really open space development regulations. And you could still, somebody could still come before this board and propose one of a traditional subdivision. Or somebody could come and propose a common interest community. And I would suggest you could even do a combination of both. If you looked at the original design that we threw up there, we had some frontage lots on Sandy Hollow Road and and Knowing Ledger Road that would be traditional single-family lots. And then you had the common interest community sort of in the center. So you can make a mix of it to really create an interesting and imaginative process.
Bill, is this like I'm trying to imagine.
Sure.
Is it like how is it different than, say, a condominium association?
So condominium associations under the current state statute are a form of common interest community. So the old condos of years past, it's almost identical
sorry.
to that, Michael. So yes, it would work just like a condo in that you own the building, you own your unit, and you would have then the spaces, the parking lots, the driveways, with the sewer, the stormwater drainage areas. Those are all in control of the association. Same exact setup. A condominium is a form of common interest community.
A condominium unit, you don't own your outside skin of your walls typically, right?
Yeah, so, but everything is customizable here so that we can make it so that the unit owner owns and has to maintain that, or it may be set up a different way where the association takes care of it. You can customize that to any needs that you have for the particular community. So for instance, one of the projects that I work with EG Home and I was responsible for being part of, they're doing a really interesting project over in Maryhaven and Greenhaven roads in the Pawcatuck area. And they have, I think, is it 60 units, 66 units, I think there. So they have single family detached homes.
Mhm.
There's no single family lots there. They're part of a common interest community. So the homes are individually owned, but the land underneath them, the sewer lines, the water lines, the common areas, the open space, the roads, networks, those are all owned by the association. So everybody has a share in that through their affiliation with the association. And so they're all professionally cared for, professionally maintained. There's a capital fund that keeps money in the fund to do repairs over time. So it's a really great way to manage it and make sure that you have a well-run community that lasts, that looks as good 20 years from now as it does on the day that the last unit gets sold.
So not to get completely into weeds
Yeah.
here, but from a tax standpoint, I mean, these are taxed as individual homes, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. So
Yeah.
you would get a tax bill and then
So
what
it gets
affects,
kind of slammed in two things.
well, but what happens is that you get a share of the association's property gets attached to your tax bill. So every building's tax has a tax value, and then all the land, the infrastructure, the amenities has a tax value, and you get a percentage share of that value gets added to your tax bill. So it's effectively, from a tax standpoint, it's no different than having a traditional subdivision situation. You just have the amenities are better taken care of and they're better maintained.
You make it sound so glamorous.
Well, but the idea is it's a modern way of
Yeah, this taxes.
it's a modern way of doing it that gets the town the same value, but like I said, 20 years from now, you don't have to worry about this lot and this lot and this lot not sort of cooperating. It's part of the overall community.
Yeah.
And so there's a value, I think, in terms of the town for that. And as I think DJ said really well, by getting away from sort of the very rigid, sort of traditional idea of single family lots where we sell this plot of land that has four corners, and then we sort of close our eyes to whatever happens in it. We're now, if we shift to a common interest model, we can get away from some of what I think are sort of the arbitrary and restrictive requirements of things like yards, like front yards, side yards, rear yards. And shifting some of that area to the common areas allows you to not add any more units, not increase density beyond what would be allowed, but just put them on smaller areas of land that are shared. And so that way we free up land in the development. So we don't need to have to pay the infrastructure cost of the project. We don't need to put all these lots in a row. We can build those common greens. We can have those curving roadways. We can have those alleyways behind because we've been more efficient with the use of land for the same number of units. And that's sort of the concept we have here. And most importantly, we have that overarching association in a common interest community to maintain it all. So effectively, what we're hoping to do is to take your open space subdivision regulations and modernize them. And basically work hopefully collaboratively with your staff to allow an alternative path, not just open space subdivisions, but open space common interest communities that have the same density requirements, have the same open space set-asides, but allow for the creativity in the layout. So we don't have to worry about laying out all these tract lots throughout the development. We would also look for some flexibility in the regulation in terms of the types of units. We're not looking to do multifamily. I can say that that issue did come up in some of our staff meetings. What if you did some sort of garden apartments or some townhouses, and you may be able to marginally decrease decrease some of the price points, but from our perspective, open space subdivisions are allowed in your single family zoning districts. So we thought the introduction of multifamily for a lot of reasons would be inappropriate. They may not fit in some properties throughout the town. Well, this would be a single family housing. So, but it would be a variety of styles, a variety of price points. There may be properties that price points could be different. This would be a regulation that would apply for the whole town, not just for EG home on this one site. So there might be properties where somebody could figure out a way to build houses at $400,000 price point or even lower. And it could be something that in the future might change the cost of construction. But the idea would be to allow that. We would like to try to include this idea of single family attached, which is a little bit different of a model. That's the cottage idea where you have sort of a horizontal demising wall between a garage and a house. So we'd like to be able to do that. Right now, the regulations don't allow that, but we'd like to be able to try to propose that. We'd also like to explore the possibility of some flexibility in the amenities. We certainly can do things like community spaces like pools and meeting rooms, but we've got a really interesting opportunity at the corner of Noank Road and Sandy Hollow Road. There's the old barn there. We think it might be an interesting way to showcase that area. And there might be the possibility of adding some flexibility in use so that you could do something small, isolated, subordinate, accessory to the larger community. Have to make sure that the tail doesn't become to wag starts wagging the dog here, but we don't want to build some major commercial outlet, but some very small, isolated commercial, retail or office use that could support the overall community, might have a public aspect as well. Again, we're still working on the programming, but if we wanted to do that, we would need some flexibility built in the regulations to allow that. And again, because we're losing the lot setup, there would be flexibility in bulk and dimensionality because these properties would all be sitting on the same parcel of land, these homes. So we'd be able to shift and play with how they're aligned and how close they are to each other because you don't have traditional lot lines with side yard setbacks or rear yard setbacks. We want to be able to make sure that we can also move these homes as close to these interior private roads as possible to create those front porches and those sort of third-party meeting spaces that are created along sidewalks so that people can interact. We would also, again, the idea though would be to maintain the overall density. We're not looking to increase the density that would be allowed under your open space regulations. Just rearrange how the units would be able to be laid out and organized. And we certainly would keep the same open space set aside. At the end of the day, the open space subdivision is supposed to promote development that preserves open space. It's supposed to give flexibility to developers to modify typical zoning arrangements
Mhm.
so that they can set aside the open space. So that's got to stay sort of first and foremost in our minds. And, you know, essentially, we preserve density, we preserve open space, but we provide much more flexibility to create a more desirable housing product.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if we have to keep using the word open space or not. Because to me, you're really not preserving open space per se. Are you really having a nice community where you have greens? And I love that porch idea and stuff like that. Yeah, I think you've got a great model there.
Well, we're doing both because we have the porches and that interaction. We have the common greens, but we also have that corridor that stretches from Pequot Woods all along the south end of the property out to Noank Ledger Road, hopefully to create connections to Wolfbrook in the future. So we would have the open space too, is the bottom line. But it would be open space that's not just locked away that nobody can use. We would have passive walking trails through it so people can experience it, and people from Pequot Woods could come through it, so the public could use it as well. So that's a big part of sort of our vision.
But what if you didn't have the open space, you know, some of the restrictions and stuff? Are those opportunities too? To just say, you just take a piece of land and you have a similar sort of development, you know, something that you
Well-
like with porches and greens.
Well, you're absolutely right that you could create a regulation like that that could just be sort of silent on the issue of open space. I like it because I think maybe we're a little bit biased because we're sort of uniquely situated between these two large preserves. And we would like to integrate open space into this design. And I think you already have a track record of allowing some flexibility in single family housing development in your regulations through this regulation. I just think the regulation could be so much more than it is right now. It could be so much more flexible and durable by just allowing it to open up to more creative and imaginative ideas. And if you read the purpose of the regulation, the preamble of this regulation is to promote imaginative development. So it's supposed to allow developers to dream and to come forward with a vision, which I always think the best development is development where you can allow people to come forward with interesting ideas and not be sort of hemmed in by zoning code.
Right, but I think we also have a big need in this community, especially for like single people, workers here.
Yeah.
To get their first real estate investment, right?
Sure.
And they don't, I mean, open space subdivision is kind of irrelevant to that. Maybe they'll be living close together and all that. And you said this company's building one over in Pawcatuck or something, more of a townhouse type thing.
So we have
Yeah,
a
that's-
townhouse project that we finished at the Perkins Farm development, which is David Latazori's development. We have another project at Greenhaven and Mary Hall Roads, which is more like what we're proposing here. But we have other products too. I mean, we're working on another project in Pawcatuck right now, which is traditional townhouse style, but it's in the old Mill Village area of Pawcatuck. It's literally downtown Pawcatuck. It fits in perfectly because we have row houses right next door. So we try to target our products so they fit seamlessly into the neighborhoods that we put them in.
Yeah, I just think we have a lot of employees here, so I hear from I don't have a statistically valid sample or anything. But a lot of people, half of their take home pay from a good job goes to their rent, right?
Well, and I
Every
saw
tax
the newspaper article about your meeting last
Right.
week about the missing middle. And certainly the reality is there are not new homes being built for $300,000 anywhere in southeastern Connecticut because it's not effective to buy them when you have to pay for the infrastructure to support them.
Sure.
Sewer, roads, water, it's just not happening. So those people are being shifted to multifamily opportunities. Now, what we'd like to do is try to create single family homes at the most reasonable and realistic price point. And we think that the cottage development, when we can get around 500,000, is probably the best we can do on this site. But there might be other people at other sites where it makes sense to do something different. Again, if we change the regulations, it's not just for EG Home, it creates some flexibility in your toolbox of tools that may encourage other ones. But I don't think you're going to solve the housing problem in Groton or in any town around here with a single regulation change. It's going to need to be comprehensive. You're going to need to look at your multifamily regulations. You're going to need to look at your single family regulations, accessory dwelling units, all of these things, and say, like, how can we take away burdens and obstacles, and how can we incentivize people to build more units? And, DJ said a very important thing. We can focus on price points, but the fundamental issue of why we have a housing crisis in southeastern Connecticut right now is simply an issue of supply and demand. It's basic economics. So for every unit you build, no matter what price point it's at, it helps the situation. So what we want to do is create opportunities to build housing for all different types of people at all different price points. That's what communities that are going to succeed do.
Yeah, and I think we heard a lot of things that were kind of promoting more village idea too. And this 80 acres, you know, the way you have it and the possibility of adding some things really gives you at least some sort of taste of a community more than most, you know, developments.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, just because of housing prices, I've seen for the first time, I've been doing this since 1999. So, and I've been here you know, I've been down here on the shore since 2004. There hasn't been a lot of subdivision development in the last 20 years. There's been literally none. I can count probably on 4 hands the number of subdivisions I've done, you know, significant subdivisions over those years, where I can count hundreds of other development projects and all in the number of multifamily. But we're starting to see subdivision development again, but it looks like the same subdivisions that they built in 2004 and in 1996. I mean, it's the cul-de-sac subdivision, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but it certainly doesn't create the type of community that people talk about that they want. You know, where you have those common open spaces that you're built around. E.G. Home really wants to build that type of community. It's obviously, at the end of the day, it's got to make financial sense to do so, but they really want to do that. And they want to do it here in Groton. They want to do it in the other towns in the area. I think there is a shard, or there's of something good in your open space subdivision regulations, that if we can just modify slightly, we can do a really, really interesting project.
When you do these, when you're done, do you turn the road over to the town, or does the association continue to own it?
The intent here would be to have all private roads owned by the association, but theoretically, that could happen. I mean, you could propose something where a town road is built and a town road is then turned over. Generally speaking, where developers have the ability to do private roads, they're doing them today, because town road standards require much wider roads with much more infrastructure at much higher price point to build. So no, this project would be, once you get into the development, those would all be association roads. That would be
then snow, if we ever have any again.
all,
And trash, road maintenance, lights, all that stuff is.
all that's taken care of by
not
the
the town's
association.
side.
Yeah.
So it's, I think one thing is, and it makes it difficult for me to wrap my head around, and it doesn't really affect anything, is the costs, right? So you're paying, what I heard was, and it didn't seem, I think I would, like what Lauren said, I see the diversity in price, 500 to 900 is what I heard,
That's right.
but I don't see the diversity in the size as much. And I'm looking at numbers that go from like $200 a square foot to $300 a square foot. So I'm just kind of like, I think I would like to see things in that lower range that are more, you know, affordable, but I don't know if, I don't know if it's just the square footage of the house that's driving the cost of these. I can't tell anymore because of, you know.
Yeah, I'll let DJ add anything to this that he wants, but
Yeah,
we
you're
did.
not gonna solve every problem.
I'm not trying to.
Well,
I'm
we
just.
did
Yeah.
at the request of your staff, we did explore the possibility of a 5th type of housing unit, which would be like a stacked garden apartment. And, you know, could we build that for slightly less than the 500 per 1,000 per unit? Yeah, we probably could do it slightly, yes, but we got really concerned with where that was going from a design perspective. And also, first of all, ultimate possibility of us getting it approved. Now we're putting the really traditional multifamily in single family zones, which we think is a bridge too far, particularly on our site. But we also looked at just how it would fit into the overall layout that we're trying to do with these porches and the interconnection. And we just don't think it's necessarily a good fit for us.
Okay,
Right.
no, it's reasonable. I guess.
But there might be other parts of town where that would work really well.
Yep.
And so, you know, one of the things I would just come back to is we could add provisions to this regulation change that we might not want to take advantage of or avail of ourselves to for this particular project, but it might be helpful to somebody else.
Right, exactly. Because it's a very, it's complicated, but there's a lot of different needs and we do have some big parcels in town. so.
Do you want, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
You know,
I know you guys looked at all this.
Yeah, so.
This is my question.
No.
Is the
What?
1,100 square foot house, is that capable of being built in this world today?
So I think the things that work against us for this parcel is that at any density, we have over 2,500 feet of sewer to extend the road.
Mhm.
$45 million. So we already have a huge infrastructure cost before we even put a shovel in the ground on our site, right?
Mhm.
And then we add into that the alleys that we want to build, the extra landscaping we want to do to create this sense of character in the community, and all of that starts to escalate the cost before we've started to build anything. So we already start at a pretty high price point because of the infrastructure costs and because of the way we want to design the community.
That's one of the big drivers?
It is. And so
Sewer.
when you already start at a price point that's relatively high, if you did like a little 700 square foot or 800 square foot house, you might pay $400,000 for the 700 or 800 square foot house because you've already got so much money invested just before you even start building it. I think there are other parcels where cottage clusters and a focus on ADUs can get you those small square footages.
Right.
But, and there could be opportunities for ADUs above garages and things like that, where you could be 600-700 square feet for an ADU. But, you know, that is that's a different product, I think, for different parcels, right? So this parcel, I think, is better suited to this price point and this size to be a certain demand profile. And there are other parcels where sewer is readily available, where the infrastructure costs are lower, where you can start at a lower price point. We're doing that in our pocket duck community, where we have townhouses because sewer's right there, right?
Right.
And that means we can start at a much more attainable.
You don't have
price.
some costs.
Right,
I
yeah,
know you're probably starting at 1,100 square feet just to pay for all this stuff.
yeah.
You know?
So that's why I say, like, at some point you start at such a high price point that people might not be willing to buy a 900 square foot home at 450,000. And I can build a quite a bit bigger of square footage upstairs with in bedroom space. And yeah, the square footage seems very high, but they didn't actually add a lot of construction costs to give them a better home. And that's a much more relevant size in relation to the cost of our infrastructure and site development.
Right. Well, I'd like to see some floor plans if I could, just say maybe a sample, doesn't have to be, you know, it could be something you've built.
That's
What?
before the horse.
Yeah.
or-
No, I just wondered what other developments that you've done similar to this, maybe just what the floor plans would look like, if that's possible. And then maybe,
Send me virtual tours and interactive floor plans for our active communities.
okay, that'd be great.
Yeah,
It's a really nice website, you yeah,
Okay.
please check it out.
Yeah, I want to get a little further on the concept of before we,
Yeah.
you know, we just had some preliminary plans that we tried to put together and convey.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking for these plans.
Sure.
I just
Yeah, yeah.
am curious on what you've done and I would like to see a couple of them.
Of course.
So, like, I think the ask in front of us is to change something about our existing regulations to include common interest communities.
Yes, I think that is the fundamental change. Be
Right.
that open space subdivision, section 6.3 would change to include open space subdivisions and open space common interest communities. So both of those models, or a hybrid of the two,
Right.
could be proposed. And obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So we have to go in, you have, for instance, a table that shows, you know, for different underlying zones, you know, what we'd have to build the common interest community concept into that. And I didn't want to be too presumptive and do that tonight because I just wanted to present the idea to you. The idea would be to put something together and work with Deb, work with Bryce, work with Dave, and try to get something that makes sense, that allows this alternative path in open space development through common interest communities, and then bring it back to you for consideration.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I
But
think-
if you told me tonight, Bill, no, we don't want common interest communities in the town, it's a horrible idea, then I can save my client a lot of time and effort, but I wanted to just throw it out there for discussion.
Well, I
So-
think we want to really hear from town staff too, you know, get your thoughts on this whole thing too.
The devil's in the details here.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
right,
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. It's
Yeah.
not just for these folks, it's for
Right,
everyone in
exactly.
town.
we want it to
Um,
work for a lot of people.
Right, but the concept,
Uh-huh, Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Certainly interested in looking at what how you think these could be changed.
Mhm.
We had the same discussion that a couple of you had. Can we have smaller units
Mhm.
here that might be a little bit more affordable?
We can certainly,
yeah.
we can certainly modify a regulation that would allow for
Right,
that.
right.
Whether it works on this particular
Right.
project for my client,
No, I understood, but certainly, and I will say, I really like alleys.
Mhm.
I really
yep.
like the idea of a small, somewhat commercial, something near
right.
this for people to walk to.
Yep.
I think it's,
So,
I
absolutely.
think it's
Well-
required because it's
Yeah.
already a food desert right
Right.
there.
Right,
Yep.
and so
There's
that's kind of what I was asking with,
yeah.
like, where I was going to go with understanding more about what a common interest community is, and it's new verbiage for me, right? So
yeah.
like, what is E.G. Homes' relationship with this development once all the houses are sold?
Great question. So they would start off as the declarant, as the developer. So they would set up the framework and they would set up what's called a declaration that would say there are 200 units in this development, and these are the types of units. These are the rules about how, who pays for what in terms of maintenance and exactly what it pays. If we had a commercial unit, you would have commercial unit declared up front, and there would be rules and limitations for that. And then at some point, typically set by the declarant, at some point after a certain number of units are sold, control of the association shifts to the unit owner. So the declarant runs it, it makes all the decisions on management, it brings in the people to plow the
Right.
roads. But at a certain point, the homeowners take over until all the units are sold.
So it's
And
a
they
more
would
traditional organic HOA
yeah, it
situation,
would be
gotcha.
very similar, and they would reserve what's called declarant rights through that period, so they would continue to be able to build on the undeveloped pieces of the property until they build out. Eventually, everything would shift over to the homeowners association, but it would be controlled by the declaration that they set up, the framework that they set up with their HOA, their common interest community attorney.
And so any of these rights include like control or clawbacks to the land or anything like that? You can, that the concern being like, as a property owner, I own my lot, I own the house on
Yes.
top of it, and I have a lot of freedom within that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, so it would lay out.
I don't have to go back to my developer from 1940 to give him anything.
No, it would be built for a seamless transition between the developer and the homeowner association. Typically, the homeowner in these situations, the declarant or the developer would be finishing up the project as control shifted, and that when they sold that last unit, they would step away and would run itself.
Yeah, and so for staff, I think what I'd be interested in is seeing preserving the ability to have mixed uses still within there. So again, I keep going back to knowing just because I spent a lot of time there and I like it. Carson's, Palmer's, all of that. Not just on the outskirts, but the fact that it's integrated within there. You know, so I think you're on the same page, Deb, right?
I think we'll have time for a lot more input and everything.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, it's like the first time we've seen this.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we'll be thinking about it, I'm sure.
Is it something that deserves its own section?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, again.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
this could be a very interesting vehicle to explore the creativity of a common interest community as it pertains to these different product types, housing types,
Mhm.
price
Yeah.
points, right?
Because
And to really push the applicants on, okay, like what can this model do for our town at large? Outside of, again, this specific piece of property,
Yeah.
but you know, if we're gonna crack open this section of the regs and explore common interest, explore it fully,
Yeah,
right? To see what it can be
Yeah.
leveraged to do.
concerned that, if we dig into this and we modify this and this applies, we may do harm somewhere. And I'm always concerned about that.
There's still the table, within
I mean, that's in the
regs.
crafting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll work it.
And so when you start seeing draft text,
Mhm.
right, don't just think of this property. Think of Marty Lane,
Mhm.
which is a big piece of property with a failed development on it. Think of other
You have to,
sections.
Yeah,
Okay.
Exactly.
just to think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think this is unique enough to almost deserve its own section.
Yeah, originally that was my concept too. The reason I shifted this, and I'm not opposed to going back to that either, I should say that.
Yeah.
The reason I went to this is we're talking about development at higher densities with flexibility in single family zones. You have an example of that right now in your regulations in the open space subdivision. So I'm a big believer in don't try to recreate the wheel. You've set forth a process to allow for flexibility in return for the preservation of open space, which is inherent in what we want to do. And so the idea was, if you just take this and you tweak it, and it's a little bit more than tweaking, obviously, but if you tweak it to allow for common interest communities, the vehicle's there, you're just sort of souping up the engine. There is no reason why we couldn't have a regulation that sits aside this, that says common interest communities. And open space, I think, would be a part of it, but it might not be the preeminent part of it. It may be about housing diversity. It may be about sort of more community integrated development. We can go down that route too, if that's where the commission stands. I thought that this made sense because you already had a foothold in the regulations for sort of creative and imaginative design. But certainly it could be written as a separate section if you felt there was value in that.
I think we have a lot of opportunities. I was looking at the map here just casually before the meeting a few days ago. I came up with, but I came up with like 10 different opportunities just without even digging too far in town.
Sewer and water is important, though. You
But,
really need
but
to.
that's why you need, I think, slightly different things too. You'll have different developments, this one.
You really need utilities to do this. So there's some areas in town where this doesn't work because you
No,
can't
there are some
get
that
that
do.
flexibility. There are this
We
one that
do
do.
have these properties that have that.
And some of them may just be 20 acres instead of 80. And some
Or
of them,
even 9 acres.
no, it could be even
Maybe
smaller.
want a different
But
minimum.
you do not have water and sewer at this site.
We would have to extend sewer, I think,
Yeah,
2,500 feet to this site.
yeah. That's what we're talking about. That's
And
okay.
if you're interested, I spent in May, I was down in Florida and I was right outside of Lake Nona, which is a similar community to this. It's really new, but it's got this mix of alleys, it's got mix of product types. ADUs, I think, are there, but their website is just crazy integrated. Like you can really get a feel for what something, and I'm not trying to be presumptive in that yours is going to look like this, but it's got a lot of the same elements and it's
Yeah.
very new. And, if you're interested, I think that's a pretty fascinating kind of case study in some of
Just
this.
those things like
Yeah.
all the education.
Yeah.
It's good.
There's a suburban version that we have, though it's rental, because what we've got now for sub-basic housing,
Mhm.
up on top of the hill, it's got a boulevard back alley, which is tremendous.
Yeah.
It's not very attractive, but it's a boulevard and it's the back alley. So I don't know if you've ever been up on the hill there.
Mm.
Then you come down the hill and we've got clusters, we've got
Mm.
different kinds of clusters, and we've got,
Do you know what those sold for?
they don't sell.
They're,
They're not for sale. This is a
Okay.
rental.
There's a
I didn't know
rental
if that
product.
was.
It's a rental
part of
product,
the,
but there's no reason it couldn't,
Mm.
because they were all made for originally for different targets at different pay grades. Each one of them is based entirely on a pay grade
Oh.
for the officers versus the enlisted.
Mm.
And so the model still kind of holds, just a different target.
Very interesting. Great. Well,
Could we be provided with I know that this open space regulation that we have is 20 acres.
Yeah.
So the lots or the parcels in town, so that we can look at the places.
We actually have a map.
Yeah, the regulation
that's
talks
fast.
about an open
Yeah, we-
space subdivision map.
Okay,
It's
all
not
right,
based
that would
on
be
the zoning
interesting
map,
to see,
it's-
then it'll
Yeah.
show,
Yep.
so that we're
Yeah.
not just talking about this one piece that
No.
you've identified here.
Yeah, I think the map shows where you have approved open
Already.
space subdivisions
Yeah.
already. That's all the map shows.
We can do
Yeah,
that.
look at the plan.
Can we see
Yeah.
parcels that are 20 acres or more that are
Yep.
serviced by water and sewer?
Yep.
I would
Yep.
say.
That's
would be
that's an
the
easy
criteria.
query to do.
or not service.
We're not
Yeah,
service.
either way.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
differentiate them from it.
Yep.
When you look at open space, we are providing several different types. This is preservation, we have kind of on the perimeter, but we have new development of open space of entirely different character. So if you're looking to have a mix of housing types, maybe there's also some credit or something involved in developing new open space.
Or improved open space as
Yeah.
opposed to natural open space.
Right, because that, being overgrown with invasives, just leaving it alone. Isn't, that provides one sort of energy, but creating something that has different use potentials is quite another. And in the mix of the two, makes a much more dynamic community.
Well, this kind of reminds me of our cottage community in the way that we had the porches and the way it was laid out. It was supposed to, and they were close together, it was supposed to encourage people to interact and everything. So,
Never
no,
been able to get
nobody-
any of my clients interested, and Deb and I have tried to push it on some of them, and they just walk away. Really close? All right, good deal.
So it turns out Celebration and Disney property wasn't a big hit.
Oh.
And what a dream it was, and it's still.
Wait, what do you mean it's not a big
So
hit?
if-
They're going for like a million.
Timeline.
Yeah, I know.
So I
Give us
think
$1 million.
if the commission was open for us to exploring this, we would be working on this, move into it immediately to start putting together a potential draft, meet with your staff, and then get it to a point where they're comfortable enough to come back to you to share it.
Well,
So-
okay, first I want to ask Deb, if we all said yes,
I
we
know,
want to
I mean-
pursue it.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump the gun and, because I know you guys are slightly busy. but-
Oh, no, they're doing the work.
Oh, yeah.
I would propose to let Deb rip it apart and tell me what I
Yeah,
have to change.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Okay, good.
yeah.
So, what is everybody's thoughts on this? Is there anyone? I would
Well,
say
I-
that's absolutely against it, or, I mean, we
I
all have a
still,
lot of
when you
questions.
mentioned that there's no change in density, I still have a hard time. I think there is a change in density.
Well, density meaning the number of housing units allowed on a certain acreage of land.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't change that. So it'd still be the same calculation to
Mm.
do that. It's just, we would be positioning them typically closer together, clustering them even more because there's not lot lines, so that there's more land that can be dedicated to amenities and open space. That's effectively, the idea is not to upscale the density that allowed under the current subdivision requirements.
Why not?
What's that?
Why not?
That's my thought. Why not? I mean, it sounds like a good idea.
Well, you got one road that goes in and one road that goes out. I mean, that's a limiting factor.
Yeah, I
Well,
think.
I mean, obviously, any project has to have.
Right.
No, I think it's a good question long-term, but I think for
Mhm.
tonight, why don't we keep with the,
And you got
Proposal
surrounding
at
people
hand.
that all have.
Well, the proposal at hand is to
And-
do a rewrite of the reg.
Right,
So
I-
Go
I
pie in the
mean-
sky if you're gonna do it.
no, if,
Right.
are there any other questions or objections to moving ahead with this, at least
It's
we'll
interesting.
get a proposal?
No, I think it's perfect to do
Anybody?
and incorporate something we thought about, but never put on there is that we
Hmm.
need a new node
Hmm.
in that area. I think we need a couple new nodes in
Mm.
town, actually.
Mm.
Because if you're gonna have a walkable land road, if you're gonna have no wank, you need a place to go get ice cream.
So,
I'm very happy to hear that. I was very worried how you might react to having additional uses other than residential in
Oh,
the
no.
project. We really didn't know how you would react. So it's good to hear that you're open to that. And it sounds like you actually want us to explore that.
Oh, yeah.
that was what the proposal
Yeah,
was,
That's, I
really.
mean, that's traditional New England village.
Good,
right?
good. No,
I mean,
that's great.
that's-
Yeah,
I think the big issue, and I'll probably talk with Deb a little bit, is do we want to try to take the open space subdivision regulation and modify it? Or do we truly want to create a sort of a sister regulation for common interest communities?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm not crazy about open space ones, but what you've done here with the design, I think creating the greens and stuff, if it has to be open space for a developer to come up with this, then maybe we should keep open space, or the porch things, that's like.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll
it's
talk.
Some of the
Yeah,
things.
some of the things are
Yeah.
just design changes, right?
Yeah, but it's an incentive to have that design, because you have to have the open space, so that's something to think about too. So, but thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for the time tonight. I always like to try to talk with you guys about ideas before I get too far down the road. So I always appreciate your input. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay, so, let me get the, sorry.
Meeting schedule.
Yes. That's all there is, that's right, the meeting schedule. Do we need to approve them? You do. Yeah, okay. That's right, vaguely remember that. So, has everybody looked at the meeting schedule?
I haven't.
I did, I couldn't
skipped
find
that.
any mistakes.
That's so good. Try it.
There you go.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys are still good with 7 o'clock. That don't-
You know,
still
my
works
birthday?
for everyone?
That's
Yeah, fine. Yeah, that's fine.
managed to get out the door by then, yeah.
So,
I guess I'll spend
okay,
my-
so at this point, so we want to make a motion to accept the
So moved.
tentative.
Make a motion to accept the meeting schedule.
schedule for
Second.
Next year. right?
Lauren moved. I second.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine too. There you go.
Now there's-
No, I don't, that's
Yeah, yeah.
just trying to move things along.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
not slowing them down.
I was quiet.
So any other discussion?
Mm.
Okay, all's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That's our schedule. Let's have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I don't think.
There's no report,
Anything else?
Net
No
zero.
report of staff.
Eddie?
no report of staff, no report of chair, nothing.
Unofficial report, 23rd, walking tour, 4:30
Oh,
through
yeah.
Mystic to explore missing middle housing.